Hi, how the hell are you? Clayton speaking. Welcome to StickySims, my YouTube channel where I love to build and play The Sims. I hope you're doing well today. So, for the month of October, my thought is I want to love on Glimmerbrook because, girl, she needs it. So, I'm going to start with the bar lot. The bar lot is called Elixirs and Brews. My goal is to, one, try to love on Glimmerbrook. Two, I want to try to give everyone multiple options as far as like Glimmerbrook is concerned. There's only 5 lots, so I'm gonna try my best to give you 2 options for each of the lots in this this very poorly built world by EA. Anywho, Glimmerbrook was brought to us with the game pack Realm of Magic. The big thing that they brought us with this pack is spellcaster gameplay, which, to be honest with you, for the longest time, this was actually one of my favorite packs. The build buy items sometimes are a little like specific, a little niche to this like Art Nouveau style that they were going for, but it was a little confusing at the same time because the world Glimmerbrook is kind of like set in like northwestern United States area, but I really love it. It's like very, gloomy, treesy, kind of dark, a mysterious type world, which I thought was perfect, and it doesn't have the awful lighting that we got with what was the vampire world? Forgotten Hollow. Forgotten, huh? How about that? Now, the gameplay as far as Realm of Magic goes, the bar is kind of central to things. It's also like the only community lot that you get with Glimmerbrook. So this build that I'm doing here, I actually was inspired by this reference picture that I found on Pinterest. I'm fairly certain it's AI modified, but my build is not, so I hope that counts for something. Anyways, I really wanted to make use of these new reclaimed wood wallpaper swatches that we got. It was an event item with the Nature's Calling event. Now, I'm no graphic designer, but it does seem like they used like different versions of the different swatches in this event item in each other's swatches. I hope that makes sense. So like if they had a darker one, they kind of used the darker one to accent some of the lighter swatches. So I feel like, in a way, all of the swatches kind of can go together in their own little combinations, if that makes sense. So like my original thought was these 3 little individual like boxes, if you will. I was going to use a different swatch of that, but I just, I felt like I needed another like element, another type of texture added in. So I decided to make this little like back room kind of like paneled. Now, I wanted this build to be broken up into like 3 different types of bars. If I remember correctly, the original bar that's here, it does have just the one. And I think there may be something downstairs, like a basement. I didn't do a basement in this one. I just did kind of like a little like balcony upstairs. I wanted the like upstairs quote unquote bar to be a little bit more on like I guess a little bit more elegant, a little bit more sophisticated. The bottom floor, of course, I made it a little bit more like a dive bar. You just kind of roll in, grab a drink, run out. I kind of like, I guess, I don't know, challenged myself with space. I could have made this build bigger, but I like quaint little small cozy spaces. Also, when you build like community lots pretty small, it does make a challenge to make sure that there's enough space for everything, but it also just looks really lively, right? So the bottom floor has a bunch of places to sit. I added a jukebox, different things like that. But this little like back room, I kind of wanted it to be like a little, I don't know, like a secret hangout for spellcasters. And the funny thing is, when I was actually playtesting it, one of the base game like spellcaster mentors, Alphaba, she actually like spawned as one of the random bartenders when we went to, take a visit. Now, not to like completely interrupt my whole thought flow, but I was thinking about this, and I always feel the need to mention this, especially when I'm doing my little voiceovers for the speed build, because it happened on this build. Now, of course, we all, stress the importance of remembering to save, and then some of us will even save 10 times before closing out the game, which I try not to save at 10 times because I like having those like backups, if you will. should I need to like go back to a certain or a closer restore point in time, if that makes sense. I basically treat my saves like databases. Anyways, I am rambling. The point that I'm trying to make here is make sure that you're saving to your tray. Make sure that you're saving to your library in addition to saving your actual file, particularly when you're building, because save files, of course, can get corrupted by many different things. And for example, I didn't even have For Rent enabled when I was building this. I'm a big fan of disabling packs in my launch options, and I am absolutely terrified and still refuse to use that new pack selector thing that they released, which I feel like in theory it was a great idea, but in execution it was not. So anywho, the point I'm trying to make here is I didn't even have For Rent in my game while I was playing with this, and I experienced save file corruption. So I unfortunately had forgotten to save to my library, and the ending result is not quite exactly the same as the last few bits of the actual speed build footage. That's kind of the real struggle thing when it comes to doing these speed builds. I record myself doing it, but then when something like that happens with the save, then I'm like, okay, well, what do I do with this footage? I can either scrap the footage and then just do it again, or I could try my best to just rebuild what I did, and the second option seemed a little bit more doable this time, mostly because it wasn't too much that was lost. Now, anywho, I've talked about this in previous builds, but the angle that we're looking at right now is kind of what I've considered the back of the build. And that frustrates me in a way because this is what you can see from the world screen. When you're loading into your managed world screen or you're loading into Glimmerbrook, you can see the back of this build from the world screen. And I just hate that. I really hate that. When you go to actually visit the lot or play on the lot, it loads in from the opposite side. So naturally, that's the side that I wanted to make it look really nice and pretty, a facade for the bar. In that frustration, I decided that I was going to add this little corner piece right here, which ultimately from the world screen you still can't see. But I tried to add trees and different things to make sure it just didn't look I don't know, ugly, I guess is the word. I didn't want it to look too ugly from the managed world screen. And of course, I always want it to be as interesting as I can when you're loading into the lot. Now, I was doing this thing because I wanted it to be a separate roof piece to kind of give this illusion that I added an awning, but I wanted it to be a glass awning. And there is a wall sculpture piece, I believe, that is a glass awning, but it wasn't in one of the packs that I had limited myself with this build. Oh yeah, by the way, this is also a limited pack build. I probably should have mentioned that at some point, and that point is now. So anywho, I do this thing where you build a room, just a one tile room, and then you copy and put another one above it, delete the ground floor room, and then you can use the little foundation tool within it to lower it or raise it. And I use that to kind of play with the levels and add this extra little roof piece that's lower than the actual roof on the structure. I hope I'm making sense. It makes sense in my head, but now one thing I do want to mention is that only really works when you're the existing structure is medium or tall wall height. Basically, you can't put a roof piece that's lower than a short wall height, or the Sims are not going to be able to walk underneath it. All right, now let me reel myself back into the build. So, okay, so yeah, I did a little faux chimney kind of thing. I actually did end up putting a fireplace on the second floor. It's more of the fireplace that comes with the Realm of Magic pack, so it kind of has crystals at the bottom. I feel like it's more for show than anything, but anywho. The back room, I guess when I originally had thought about it, I thought that maybe I could add a little door, sliding glass door that falls off of this deck. I built this entire bar on a platform deck type situation, but I thought that it made more sense if it's going to be a little secret kind of magic spellcasters hangout, that it would make more sense to enter from the back. The other thing too is the lot kind of has a path that goes down the back, if that makes sense. And I don't know, we're hitting this lot from all the angles. You know what I mean? Wink, wink. Anywho, threw in those hedges. Believe they're base game hedges. I use them all of the time. I feel like it's one of the most realistic shrubs that we have. I'm glad that we have a couple of different live edit objects from the Realm of Magic, like secret world. There's actually like a magic realm that you can travel to, and I think I might actually do a little build on that lot too now that I'm thinking about it. But anywho, it did come with a couple of like mushrooms and different things that really kind of play into this whole mystical, magical type thing. Now, this build, of course, doesn't use one of the newer expansion packs that we got, Enchanted by Nature, which there are so many items in that pack that really would help play into like Art Nouveau architecture. So I'm definitely going to do some builds here in Glimmerbrook without pack restrictions. So stay tuned. I also think another thing that might be beneficial would be probably throwing in a couple builds that are like base game plus. So like only use base game plus the Realm of Magic pack. I just find when I build like that, it usually requires a lot of sacrifices. Sacrifices like as far as what you can actually put on the lot and then creatively. So most likely that'll probably be a starter home since I'm already going to be in the realm of, you know, can't do exactly what you want. You can only do with what you can and what you need. So all right, we're working into furnishing the upstairs. When I was furnishing this, I kind of pictured it would be like a good spot for like, I don't know, like a meeting kind of thing. So if this is the only community lot in Glimmerbrook, then maybe the like town leaders, you know, like a council or someone would have meetings up here. I wanted it to be kind of cozy, but I also still wanted it to fall as like a good, you know, a little hangout for this bar. So I added in a couple of like bar height tables on the side closest to the fireplace, and then I've added this little like cozy love seat and a plant and such just to kind of add it right here by the front, or I should say the entrance. I absolutely love the way that these oversized like sliding doors look, although it does look a little goofy sometimes when they're using it, because like I'm looking at it and it kind of reminds me of like those window doors that you see in like more modern builds where you can just basically roll up all of the windows like a door and it takes the wall away too. Does that make sense? And that's what I see when I'm building, but then like when you actually go to test it and you're playing with it, it comes more across like those automated doors at like a grocery store. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna walk in, there's gonna be like detectors right in, make sure you don't steal nothing. I ended up using this little like debug object of like an undone or unfinished wood creation. I thought that kind of fit putting it right by the fireplace to kind of look like little pieces of firewood. I also for some reason can never find the little like fire picks and like fireplace tools. I always end up just having to search fire. I think it's a clutter object, and that might be why it's so hard to find. As usual, I love to just throw in a little pride flag somewhere, so I thought that maybe the town leader here is trans. So we threw a little trans flag right there by the bar to show our support. I also personally just find that that's like the prettiest pride flag that's out there. Anyways, I just like the color combination. Threw in a couple of, I just threw one of those little like crystals from the debug. I refrained from doing it this time, but I do have a tendency to like, if I go this route, I go all in, and you can actually in the debug menu find different like potions that your Sims can learn to brew and whatnot, but when you place it in the world, it has this cute little like animation that of like fumes and little like figures and like images in the fumes, and it just really kind of helps bring the build to life. But the problem is I don't know how to like stop myself once I go that route, so I was like, just don't do it. If I add one potion, then there's gonna be 30 before I know it, and then all of a sudden the whole build goes in a different direction. It's like a drug. No, let me not say that. But it is a little addicting, and it does kind of suck me in, I should say. Anywho, I fought with the roof here, as you can see, for a little while. I actually cut a bunch of it out. I don't really know what I was hoping for. I kept adjusting it different ways, wondering to hoping that I could either make it a little bit more interesting or make it a little bit more interesting while also it making sense. And it just kind of becomes a Clayton, you're playing The Sims 4 and you can only do what you can do. You know, if you've watched another one of my speed builds, I like to overthink things. It's slowly becoming a part of my brand. Oh, brand. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It's kind of crazy when I go back and like now I'm watching and seeing how this ended up, like this whole lot. Cause like when I originally sat down, my like rough idea in my head that I had for this build was that it would be kind of like a trailer that we built a deck around and then like expanded upon that. Thought I would add like a shed or something in the back, which I mean, I guess that little like secret spellcaster hangout bar in the back does kind of give like a back shed garage type thing. I didn't want to save this lot and mess with the like save file integrity, if you will, and try to keep it as a bar because Glimmerbrook really doesn't work correctly as far as like the gameplay with that. I think it's an aspiration if you don't have a bar here. Oh yeah, so I wanted like an outdoor sink. I really wanted to use the little like outhouse that we got recently over the summer, but I felt that if I did an outhouse outside, I would need some kind of like utility sink or something outside. And frankly, I just didn't really like any of my options, especially since I was doing a limited pack build. Now, I ended up basically just leaning in on the tool mod and created this little like custom sink, if you will. Basically just putting the sink down, and you have to put the sink on a counter, and then I sized the counter down and then replaced it with like a live edit object. So it is usable. I made sure of it. And then I don't know about you guys, but like in my experience with bars, and it might just be where I'm from, almost every bar that I went to, there was always some type of like smoking area. So that's what I'm doing here. I added like some solo cups, and I figured that there would just be this like, I don't know, like a pot or something that they just don't use anymore that's rusted over or something, and that has become like the ashtray. But this is also, 2025, so that place to smoke is not at the front door. So I thought that was a nice little spot to put it in. Now, I actually did end up putting some extra things around the side of the little back room, like a cauldron and then a couple of just like live edit things. There's these little like balls of like glowing light that come from the debug for Realm of Magic, and I use those just because frankly, just because they're pretty. Okay, so checking back in with the build, I'm putting in the bathroom. Now, originally, I was thinking that there wouldn't be a bathroom. You would just literally have to go to use the outhouse and the little sink that I made out back. But then it kind of reminded me that people have to work here, Clayton. And as someone that used to be a bartender, if I had to go to work and the only place that I could use the bathroom at work was an outhouse, I would not work there for long. So we put a bathroom in here for the bartenders. I also, like I said, I kind of kept this build really small and tight. So I ended up having to basically put another door, and the like access to the bar is through this little like Realm of Magic door back there. So really just kind of, hitting the nail on the head, or at least trying to, with the bottom floor being very dive bar. If you want a drink, you have to walk your ass over there and get one. Meanwhile, upstairs is a little bit more cozy council meeting, catering almost type atmosphere. Maybe not catering, because when you think catering, you think like dozens of people. But yeah, so I wanted to use bar height tables, but I was really limited in which furniture I had. So I ended up doing this little like teardrop shape that I used different counter pieces. I made sure that you could still get to all the little different places, but I just kind of like the way that it looks. And at making it a teardrop, I don't know, I felt like it added that little extra bit of interest for your eyes or for your Sims. Also, I did one of my favorite things to do. There's this like floor light. It's kind of like it almost looks like a candelabra, but it's not actually flames. It kind of goes with this whole like magical pack. I wish that they had made that also as like a table lamp, but you'll see. I basically just shove it in the middle of the counter pieces to kind of create my own little table lamp. I just like how it glows, and I feel like it would make sense to have that type of little lighting piece on this little, table, counter space, island. I wanted to add in another little like chatting, little like conversation corner here. But being that it's such a tight space, and I wanted to also include this like jukebox kind of dancing space, half wall came to the rescue. Now, I tried using 2 different swatches of that window piece, and to be honest with you guys, I'm still kind of on the fence about it. If you disagree that it does not look that great, please, by all means, just change the swatch. Use that little R key on your keyboard, or if you're on console, whatever control it is, to just change your swatch out. Now, the lighting I did end up doing a little differently. This was one of the things that I lost once the corruption or whatever the issue happened. A part of me is wondering if I was just playing for too long. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes there was no way of getting out of it. Like, I've just been playing for an hour and a half and didn't save once. And no matter how you slice that, the game is still just going to be like, what the fuck? But it's fixed. It's fine. It's fine. I thought I would add in a little phone to the wall right here by the bar. Then added in another little pride flag. I don't know. Like, I was playing The Sims 2 the other day, and sometimes maybe that's just why. Like, the first Sims game I ever played was The Sims 2, and there was always a phone on the wall. Which is, like, I guess a very 90s thing. Like, I remember growing up, one of the things that my parents had got that was, like, the new thing was a cordless phone in the house. This was also, during day and age when if you didn't know who was calling you, people would answer the phone, which is not so much a thing anymore, especially on like personal devices. Like if they don't recognize the number, you're expected to leave a message. Otherwise, don't expect a call back, right? So, and then it used to come from an age where we had freaking beepers, but let me not get sidetracked. Oh my God. Anyways, I like to add phones in my builds. That's what I'm trying to say. Lord help me. Let's see. Okay, so it's a community lot. Let me reel myself back in again. It's a community lot, so what kind of things did I include? There are little different things from the Realm of Magic pack that you can use to practice and work on your spellcasting. For instance, the Cauldron. There are 3 different bars. If you wanted to try to learn, practice making drinks, you could also do that. I added a chess table upstairs. You can work on the logic skill. There's also a telescope, which also works for the logic skill. But other than that, it's really just kind of a good little community space to go out and, meet people, make some friends, take a load off, have a drink. Or if you have a nosy sim, get some of the tea on what's going on with everybody. Jesus, I spent so much time on these stairs and I ended up going in a different direction anyways. Anywho, we're coming up on the end of the actual building portion of this video. I always like to end my builds with a good little tour so you can check it out. It's also kind of like my proof that I did play test this. Well, it also makes for a good watch, Sometimes people want to watch these build videos, but they don't want to necessarily sit here and listen to me gab the whole time. But anywho, for those of you that did stick around with me for this 23 minute video, thank you so much for watching. Y'all are the real ones. Love y'all so much. I hope you have a beautiful week. Bye.